In this video, I want to talk about children in church. So, Charlie has been attending church with us as early as possible. Like, ever since we went back to church postpartum, we've been taking him with us. And that has gone through many different iterations. When he was an infant, I would have to take him out to the nursery area to, breastfeed him every so often. And then that escalated to he learned how to walk and he started crying louder. His cries and complaints were more disruptive. And so I'd have to take him out for a different reason this time, to give him a chance to calm down or, discipline him or whatever the case. And then as he got even older and more rambunctious and more of a toddler, expressing himself and more interested in things too, right? Within the church itself, he would probably run to the, podium without, without us expecting it, or maybe go to an instrument that he really loves, but it's not the appropriate time for him to use that instrument, so we've gone through all the things that probably you would expect, to experience with your children being in church. We've gone through, yes, he's actually very well behaved in church, but he's also tried, those things that all kids try in church. But why do I want to talk about this today? Because I really do feel that for better or for worse, like however his mood is or whatever his behavior is that particular day, I feel that it's been a net good to always take him to church, for him to be used to that environment week after week consistently. And not only to take him to church, I think at that young, tender age, I'm making an assumption here, but I think there are few churches that are really training children at such a young age. If they have something like a program or a room for children, it's probably all play. They're probably not actively learning. Charlie's 3 years old, so for context, I'm talking like 0 to 3, okay? Like not school age yet. Barely talking age, right? Or not talking age. And so it's more like a babysitting, play kind of thing. And if that's what you have at your church, I would posit to you. I would, mildly suggest, I don't know, or that you try just keeping your child next to you in church and letting them experience week after week the worship, even the sermons that they're not understanding everything, about, and all the ins and outs of, the liturgy of your particular church. Let them experience it. Why am I saying this? Is this the second time I'm asking that question? Why am I saying this? Okay, another why am I saying this? I actually know a lot of people who, as their child develops, they just begin to develop this anxiety as a parent about bringing their child to church. They're afraid of their child's misbehavior. They're afraid of their child, wanting to run around or just be loud or rambunctious. And it makes them feel that if there's no, like program for 0 to 3, like no, childcare. That's the word I'm looking for, childcare. If there's no childcare for 0 to 3, they won't come to church or won't come to church as often. Or if there is childcare, they will always send them to childcare, such that if there's a special service or something, or if there's a day that childcare is canceled, they don't know what to do. They bring them into the church and the child is not accustomed to the environment, and they're especially rowdy because they're just not used to that environment. And so what I would want to, like I said, lightly, I can't find the word I'm looking for, but it's just like food for thought. Like I just want to lightly suggest, that if there is a children's or a childcare situation for 0 to 3, don't patronize it every week. Okay. Bring your child into the service. Because that's how they learn to comport themselves. That's how they learn the environment. That's how they learn, the church experience, if you will. And number 2, if you're not going to church on account of your child, I would highly recommend bringing your child to church, for better, for worse. Even if you have to take them out to the car and, do what you have to do to, just give them a chance to calm down. Like I said, discipline them, train them. if you have to take them to another room, if there's another room available, whatever the situation is, don't let it discourage you, because that's children. Like, that's what we've signed up for as parents. That's the age that they are, the developmental stage that they are. We deal with it in every other environment. We've got to deal with it in church too. And I think that's how they learn. So rather than keeping them home thinking that you're doing them a good, I really would challenge that idea. And at least I'll say, in my personal experience, bringing Charlie consistently has made him to be accustomed to the environment. Now, I will say, lazy parenting doesn't get you anywhere. So if you're bringing him and not actively parenting him in the service, and him or her, whatever your child is, and you're like, Marcia's advice is not working, you also have to apply active parenting. Okay. You can't just, she told me to bring him to church every week, so I'm bringing him, but you just kind of let him, every person hold him and play with him at, during the church service, and you kind of let him roam free or whatever. That's not gonna, yield you the result I'm talking about. It's a combination of regularly bringing them into the church, for service, but also doing what you need to do as a parent to train them up, just like you would in any other environment.
So I was in the back doing the whole recording and making sure the sound is good and all of that, and I just couldn't help but add to it. I have something to say, because this is such a really important topic that I think we don't talk about a lot in church circles. I think what I want to say, and I'm not going to say a lot, is it's been really important for Charlie to witness both of us serving in church.
That's
In
right.
the capacities that we do.
Mm-hmm.
So Marcy sings, I preach, or I lead prayer, or whatever. And having Charlie witness us doing those things, I think, has made a world of difference.
Mm.
There are days that we come home and Charlie mimics me, like, because he saw daddy preaching. And he was sitting right there with mommy, paying attention, watching daddy, listening. And he comes home, he grabs the microphone, and he's doing what I was doing. What's he doing? He's mimicking me. So he's transmitting all that information, and he comes home and he tries to, replicate it. And that is huge. For your child to be able to see you actively participating in church service, when we are praying, whatever I do, Charlie does. Like on Wednesdays, when we used to go to our church in person, these days we meet in our homes. When we used to go to church in person to pray, I'll be walking back and forth. I raise my hand, and Charlie also raises his hands. I put my hand on my chest, and he does that. He follows me wherever I walk to. And what is he doing? He's learning how to pray. He's looking at everyone praying, and he's thinking, okay, everyone is praying, so I better pray, but I'll just do whatever my daddy does. So there is no better way to train a child than modeling for the child. For Charlie to be able to see us do the things we do in church, I think it goes a long way to influence his behavior at church, because daddy's not running around doing whatever. Why should I be? And if you do that consistently, they are more likely to listen to you and stick with you. There have been times when I have had to tell people, no. I mean, people want to take him because he's just so lovable. He's like, this cute little child. Everyone wants to hold him. But especially during worship and sermon time, I've had to say no. Some people have tried to take him up to the kids area, and I've had to tell them, even explain to them that it's not personal to you. I would say what I'm going to tell you to anybody else. I just want Charlie to sit and witness the service because of who we are. I want him to learn. And I like that he's around. Even when I'm on the camera, I do camera work and media production at church. I want him to still turn around and see his father doing that, or look up and see his mother singing. And so, please do not take him. And they respected that. So boundaries are really important. Don't just leave room for everyone just because your child is so lovable and easy to hold and whatever. Just let them, take them away, and you look around, you don't know where your child is. Let them stay with you and actively parent them.
At risk of this becoming as lengthy as a podcast episode, and also at risk of maybe being now too strong on the topic. But, well, I've got two things to say. So the first part is,
Okay.
yeah, some things to look out for when they're in the service as far as behavior, at least in our experience, is like Thomas said, other people wanting to hold them, bring them places.
Yeah.
Your child that is, that you're not sure about. It's okay to say no, set boundaries. But then also, like, people will make faces and stuff, right? Like, people will try to talk to your child while we're praying.
Oh,
The other
yeah.
kids will try to,
Yeah.
and they don't mean bad or whatever, but it's up to you to stand up as a parent and say, hey, we're praying. And, they might not execute perfectly because they're so small still,
Yeah.
but they get it. Communicate to them. Make sure you explicitly say, and you can communicate to the other kids too. Okay.
Yep.
We're praying, now it's not the time to play with Charlie or whatever. A little is, not going to kill anybody. But if it goes too far, if it starts, being that your child is always distracted during the service, put your foot down.
Yeah.
Advocate for your family values.
And what's the other one?
Yes. The other one was the strong one.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Which is that if you go to a church where they're a little bit too pushy about putting your child into childcare, like your church offers childcare and they're pushy about that, I'm not saying leave the church, but I'm just saying advocate for yourself, like even to the leaders who are, trying to coerce that for your family if that's not what you want for your family. Because again, you have to stick up for your values. And to be honest, I've actually heard of a church where they literally didn't allow children to be in the service with the adults. The children had to. They were mandated to go to the child care area. And that is not okay to me. Yeah. And so you've got to stand up for yourself. And if necessary, then yes, leave. If necessary, just walk out. But children belong in the service. Children are our future, okay? And one of the things I really value about the pastor of our current church, he's really understanding of that. Yeah, he understands children cry. He understands sometimes they might, run to the wrong place. And, he's not, I think most adults are not surprised by the behavior of children. When they might start to sort of judge you or question is when you're not doing anything as a parent.
Inactive.
Yeah, when you're inactive, when you just let your kid run laps around the church and you do absolutely nothing. That's when parents are less understanding, more critical of you or other adults. But most parents, I think, and most adults are very reasonable, especially Christians, because we're all raising our kids side by side. Their kids may be older than yours and not doing that anymore, but it doesn't mean they don't understand or that they haven't been there. And so they're understanding that your child is going to cry or whatever. It's just that when things happen, you do what you need to do as a parent to not overly disturb the service, because there's a sacredness there too. Yeah. And so if your child is crying after a certain point, you have to take them out and just, attend to them, if you're not able to calm them right there in a timely manner. If your child is running around, you got to go snatch him up. Okay. Go snatch up your child.
Go do your job.
Yeah.
Just go do your job.
Yes. What's funny is some people will even think you're too harsh sometimes. Well, let me say in my experience, because they're so compassionate toward your kids. Because
like,
kids
it's okay. Just let it's not okay. It is not okay. Okay. Just let me parent them. Yeah. So I think there's so much to learn here, but you got the gist of it. It's prioritize that. Take your children to church, and don't be embarrassed going through the motions of correcting them. It may come across hard now, but if you don't do the job now, it will be harder in the future where you cannot even correct them anymore. So do the job now, correct them, take them to church, let them get used to the church environment. There's so much to learn from church because it's just a happening place where human beings are interacting. Activities are going on. There's a little bit of order. Sometimes there's a little bit of, slight chaos, like something funny. We are all laughing. There's so much social interaction happening in the church that please don't rob your child of all the learnings that they would get or receive at church. It's not just school. The church can step in multiple ways as far as raising your child and shaping their character and the way that they behave around human beings.
And those intergenerational relationships too. I know we're supposed to be
That too,
finishing.
that too.
That's so
Intergenerational
great, you
relationship.
know?
We'll talk about that maybe in a
Yeah,
different video. But
that's so good.
the point is there are different age groups. There are older people, there are younger people their age, there are adolescents, and it's
It's
nice to
all
have that
good.
environment.
Mhm.
As you know, compared to your child's classroom where everyone they're seeing is their age,
Your
maybe
peer,
their
yeah.
peers. So that's really important. But I think we should spend time talking about that in a different video, maybe even a podcast episode. And if you guys are interested, we can talk about that. Just say it in the comment that can you highlight that a little bit more, and we will talk about that. All right, I'm going back to my camera work. I will see you.